What is going on, everybody? I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend, but it's time to dive in for a brand new Stock Mavericks weekly watch list and potential opportunities that we can make some money on this week. Now, if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Stock Sniper, Stock Maverick Mike. I have my own simpler trading service. It's called the Stock Mavericks Room on simplertrading.com. We have a great group of teams. We've been trading now for about 10 months together, and we've been able to turn $7,500 into over $60,000 in profit, and we're continuing to do that day in and day out. Now, one of the key things that helps me consistently stay profitable for 9 years now is my weekly watch list, and that's a watch list that I review and create every single day in the Simpler Trading Mavericks room on Sunday I would say around 9 p.m. Eastern. Don't want to guarantee a time there, but by Sunday night, football season's coming up, and football is a good time for me. And definitely by Monday morning. And what I like to describe this watch list is it's a group of stocks that I would say a great way to start your coffee. If you don't get the daily newspaper anymore, our parents used to always love the newspaper. If you don't do that, this is a good way to start off. Just drink your cup of coffee and eye down the list of potential opportunity for this week. Now, I organized this list with sectors first. Then we'll get into listed stocks. Then I'll talk about options opportunities as well as OTC stocks. And Bitcoin and Ethereum have been hot lately, so I'll end it off there. So we got a lot of stuff to review today, so I'm going to dive right in. But if you do like stuff like this, every single day I'm trading live twice a day in the Simpler Trading Mavericks Stock Mavericks room. We actually have a $7 trial we're offering this month. But let's dive into this week and the potential opportunities. So last week was a very slower consolidation week. We actually had 4 straight red days before we finally ran into a huge green day in the SPY and the QQQ. We got new all-time highs in the good old Qs or the SPYs across the board. The QQQs created that first green day, but beautiful to see that to close out the week. But that's really the only momentum that we got all week. It was definitely a slower week as the kids got back to school and kids are going back to college. So I always say August in my books have historically been the slowest month in my 10 years of trading. And it felt like that again last week. But after the Jackson Hole meetup and the potential rate cuts that Powell is signing towards, it looks like we're going to get some momentum back in the markets. So I'm ready for the opportunity that next week's going to bring. And this is where I'm starting my week's focus with. It'll start with sectors. Most of my money comes from sector momentum. And that's one sector I'd say we have to watch is MSOS, or cannabis, the cannabis sector. The cannabis sector is very volatile lately because 2 weeks ago, Trump said he was thinking about declassifying the drug from a Schedule 3 to a Schedule, or from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug, and that would make banks possibly now be able to federally use cannabis companies. So cannabis companies can't even negotiate with banks. They can't even use banks because it's federally illegal, and banks don't want to deal with anything that's federally illegal. So companies, a lot of these cannabis companies are oversold right now. In my opinion, we're one news article away from some great opportunity. And we had that earlier in the week, as you noticed, or earlier in the month, from 8.8 to 8.11, we got some big gap ups. And we actually took advantage of that gap up from CGC over the weekend. But now we're back at that same entry spot that we got in 2 weeks ago, and we're looking for potential pops. So we're going to start it with CGC. Another listed stock that we like is Tilray. All of these are the listed cannabis stocks I like. GRWG already broke out on Friday, but maybe it can continue its wings. And then ACB is the last one. Now, all of these stocks I would say are only really going to make a move if MSOS breaks back above 540 or if cannabis comes out with some news. If none of that happens, I most likely won't be watching this stock or these sectors as much. Those were all listed stocks. Now, if MSOS does break above 540 or we get news, I think all of these stocks are going to break out too, and these are due to run. CRLBF 125 breakout, we want to see it hold that spot. Any type of breakout, in my opinion, if it's a healthy breakout, it holds that spot. So when I'm writing down my watch list, what I'm doing is I'm writing the stock, and then I'm writing the pattern right after it. And the breakout means the stock hasn't broke out in a certain amount of time, where all of these cannabis stocks are creating 3-month breakouts because they all made the same move. But that doesn't mean they can't make another leg up. And that's what we'll be looking for this week to close out good old August trading. Planet 13, we actually called this one on this gap up. Very nice opportunity. And then VRNOF I like a lot too, with a nice consolidation day right above that 170 area for the possible break. But that's only if cannabis heats up, if MSOS breaks 540 or we get news. If that doesn't happen, I'm not going to be focusing on that sector. But most of my money, if you go back to my Profitly, and this is a website that tracks every single one of my trades all the way back to 2015, you can actually see you'll actually be able to see that we've been playing these patterns for that long, and the consistency behind it is finding what works for you and then just trying to do that over and over again. I don't know why it's not pulling up, but you can always check us out on our Profitly. You'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. But most of my money on that Profitly, what I was going to show you, comes from momentum, and that's why I always start every week with that. And we're going to close this week with possible momentum too, so stay tuned for that. At the end of the webinar, we will go over that. Now let's get into my listed options and OTC stocks, starting with the one we took overnight, OPEN. If you were in the community with us, you knew Friday this was the number one watcher. It was the number one watcher on our morning watch list on Friday, and it did exactly that. Broke above 4 and squeezed all the way to multi-month breakouts. That's what we were looking for, and now we're hoping that we can get a big gap up. This is a very situational thing. If we get the gap up, we're going to sell into the gap up. If we don't get the gap up, we want to see the hold, the 495 and the push of that, and that's what we would use as our cut spot. But a very nice day on Friday and huge opportunity for anybody that took advantage of that big move and strong close on Friday, coming down from 344. The next one we're looking at is THAR. This is a huge runner last week. It recently just ran from $125 all the way to $6 in 2 days. After that, it consolidated for 2 days, and that's what you want to see. Shorts are all over this stock, so if shorts can't push it down, it's probably going to squeeze, and that's what we'll be looking for there. And then we got one of the sketchiest stocks ever in the stock market. That's why I laughed before I talked about it. But also one of my most profitable stocks in 2022 and 2023. It used to be MULN. Everyone hates this stock. Well, they switched their names to BINI to hopefully be forgot about, but the stock's done nothing but gone down. If you do look at last week, we made some money off of it on Wednesday or Tuesday when it got this big first green day and squeezed. And we actually caught it at the end of the day right here from 59 cents up to 67 cents. But this had a huge range, and we know how to usually play it when it creates a range and creates support. I'm not just trying to buy this stock and hope it spikes. I need the range to happen, and then I need support to risk off of. With this stock, we had 54 to risk off of, and it dipped close to that during power hour, and that's why we felt comfortable taking that. We ended up selling it correctly, but this stock, I would say, does one of the two things. It either makes a big run on that day, and you have to sell that run, or it makes a big run, consolidates, and then it gaps up. If it doesn't consolidate and it comes back down and closes ugly, it's going to just continue to go down. So don't pay too much mind to it, but I always like to bring this one up. TIGR, this is a good one to watch because it's in the China sector, and if the China stocks continue, or if this stock continues, the China stocks can run. I know this stock recently ran from 340 all the way to 14 almost a year ago, so why can't it do a big runner again? Well, we're getting pretty hot. We're coming up to multi-month highs. We also have 52-week highs. So we got to keep an eye on that China sector, starting with Baba, which is a nice first green day, and that one. And then also DIY and LKNCY. Those are good OTC watchers for China stocks. But all that sector, I would say, is also another sector that could possibly run. Then we have NIO. Nice pusher and possible squeezer. I don't love that it's on 3 straight green days. So if we do continue to hold 609, I want that squeeze. But we might actually try to short this one eventually if it gets high enough. And then the last couple of ones I'm going to go over are former meme stocks. These stocks squeezed when OPEN squeezed all the way back on September 21st to September 23rd. You'll notice it as I bring up these stocks. GoPro had the huge gap up from 90 cents all the way to 237. Now we're holding 120 support. And I love the fact that this has 4 straight red days and it's holding support. Because these other ones that are meme stocks that started to run with open, they're already moving. So I'm not going to buy these. I'm probably going to go after GoPro if anything. But I do want to keep an eye on both Kohl's and Dunkin' Donuts. Or Krispy Kreme donuts. Because they're both creating this green day. And if these squeeze, most likely GoPro is going to squeeze. And a lot of people don't realize that AEO, it wasn't a Sydney Sweeney thing. It was actually a meme stock thing. But yes, we can always give credit to her. You know, she's a good looking girl, so we'll give her the credit. But this big gap up, this was because meme stocks were going crazy. And this was lining up right in that alleyway. Now, sticking with listed stocks, I like to close off with options. The reason why I like to have a small list of options, because I will play options, I will play larger stocks, but I don't love to play larger stocks because usually people that make, you know, what I like to make percentage wise, they usually have a smaller account. And if you have a smaller account, you're usually messing around with options. So options here for JetBlue, looking for the multi-month breakout. I just look at, you know, all these other airlines and they're pretty strong and the markets are strong. I know JetBlue's the weakest one out of all of them, but I think we might have that breakout. It has really good follow-up days, too, when it usually runs. So that's not something you want to pay attention to. And then INTC. Maybe we get the breakout. I think we missed the first green day on Friday, which I didn't play. In my opinion, if we squeeze high enough, maybe we try to short this next week. I know I have, but it seems pretty rejection type at 26. And a lot of people are sell the news. Everyone, you know, is buying this because of the news, but the news happened. So what's going to happen now? So you want to be aware of that. And then let's close out this week with some OTC stocks. BTQQF is what we're in overnight. Looking for the follow-up green day. I do think quantum stocks look good. So be on the lookout for some quantum stocks next week. I won't take too much of your time for OTCs, but DTREF looks like a possible big gap up over 20 cents. And if it gaps up over 20 cents, we'll be looking for that. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. These stocks have been talked about from Trump since the beginning of his presidency, and they've done nothing but go up from 150 to 940 in this one, and from $2 or from 150 all the way to 11 in this one. So I think the momentum's still there, and we just like to play the pattern. So we'll see if that happens. And then finishing off with one more quantum stock, because I just talked about quantum stocks. QNCCF, the volume sucks here, but if the volume comes in like BTQQF, I think we might get some curls. Look what happened last time. And this is what we're in overnight right now. There's no better way to start the new week than with a bag. We actually got in this at 303, and it got a nice close at 319. Looking for the gap up going into next week. And then to close it out, guys, I'm just going to bring these up. But if Bitcoin doesn't do anything, we don't have to watch these. But if Bitcoin does and Ethereum does, you know, they're both hanging out by highs. ALTS is a great watcher for a potential squeezer. BTCS is a great watcher for a potential squeezer. ETCG I really like because Ethereum stocks have all squeezed, but this one hasn't yet. And then we like ETHA, which is more the ETF. GameStop, GSOL, OSOL, BCHE, LTCN, and GLNK. But remember, those are only if Bitcoin continues to move. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. I do this every single Monday. We actually review this with the team on Sunday afternoon. So would love to see you part of the team in Stock Snipers or Stock Mavericks, Simpler Trading. And also click subscribe and like below. We'll be posting weekly watchers and weekly videos weekly. All right, guys, much love. Stay safe this week, and let's go tag some bags. Peace.